W-T-L.
It's time!
W-T-L.
I think we got a show. Oh yeah, we got a show.
W-T-L.
And welcome back to WTL. Where's the line, everybody? Now, this is a very special segment as we have Greg Peterson of the Greg Peterson Experience on VSiN on the line with us, and we're going to talk college hoops. Greg, you're also the host of Coast to Coast Hoops. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me.
You bet. Well, let's dive right into it. Been flipping through the VSiN college basketball betting guide because I guess we're already into the season here. And let's talk a little Big Ten and then also the Nebraska Cornhuskers. But what are your overall thoughts of the Big Ten and how you're kind of approaching it this betting season?
I think that it's going to be a conference that once again rewards a bunch of home teams. Home court advantage in the Big Ten is always so important. But when it comes to the Big Ten, I think that it's all about who rises up in the middle, because there's not that one true Final Four contender like we've seen the last few seasons. There's not really that one team that got a bunch of fanfare, but there's a bunch of teams like Michigan, Illinois. We've certainly seen it with Michigan State the last few weeks, with Iowa. Teams that look very, very solid, can be very pesky, can make a little bit of a run, but you don't have a lot of separation. So trying to find those teams that are maybe very, very slight underdogs at home, that could be a good way to look, because that home court advantage, when you got two teams that are relatively equal, that tends to be a very, very big difference maker.
And the way this season has started, is there one team that has kind of raised your eyebrows? I know you're a Wisconsin native. You mentioned Illinois. I like what I've seen from those two squads early on here.
James Madison is a team that is all of a sudden catching my attention. They just keep winning games by like 30 points.
Oh, yeah.
That is really impressive. You're able to go like 9 to 10 deep. They're out there in the Sun Belt. And, I mean, obviously you want to see a little bit more than a 3-game sample size to get to like Howard and Buffalo. But, boy, oh, boy, they have looked really solid to begin the season. And they're a team that is certainly climbing up my power rankings. And then if you're looking for another team that I've been very impressed with, it's a team I was mentioning a little bit earlier in Michigan State.
For sure.
They lose by one against Gonzaga, and then they are able to get that outright win a few days ago in the Champions Classic. That's a team that I think has a lot of upside, and they need to find that one go-to scorer, but so far so good for the Spartans.
Yeah, for sure. That was a great win against Kentucky the other day, and I think Michigan's kind of cemented themselves as, a really good contender in the Big Ten, maybe even the outright, overall, who's going to win the Big Ten outright. Let's get into a little bit of the Cornhusker talk. I know our listeners are really going to wonder how these new pieces in the Cornhuskers are going to come out against the St. John's Red Storms tomorrow. I don't have a lot of faith in them. I see the lines at 10.5 right now, leaning towards the Red Storm. I'm just kind of seeing what your take on that was, Greg.
What I think you're going to see is a very up-tempo game, as neither of these teams are ones that are very content to play a whole lot of defense. So I think that you're going to see them running and gunning. Right now I'm seeing a total right around like 158-ish, somewhere in that neighborhood. And I can't say that I hate the under as long as you're able to get below 160. So there's that aspect of it. I did make St. John's more around a 13-point favorite, though. You've got a pair of guys, Posh Alexander and Andre Curbelo, the much-maligned Andre Curbelo from the Big Ten. But what I think is very important for St. John's is that they just have a little bit more size down low. With Nebraska, I don't know who's necessarily going to be doing a great job in the post. I actually do like Emmanuel Bandamel.
Oh, for sure.
From SMU, a double-figure score. I think that he's going to be able to do some very good work. And then they've got the gentleman that came over from the continent of Asia. I always forget his name, but it's like Kasi Shaminga. He does a solid job for them as well. Shaminga is someone that I do like for them. He's a double-figure scorer. I think that he's going to be able to have a good season. Backcourt of Nebraska, solid. I think that they get decimated on the glass, unfortunately, and in a game that's going to be super-duper up-tempo. Going to be tough to say within single digits.
No, I like exactly what you just said, because you kind of look at these teams and, St. John's is averaging about 90 points a game. The Huskers sitting right there at 77 points a game with not playing, an upper echelon of competition yet. I really like that St. John's Red Storms to cover tomorrow, because I think that 10.5 is way too low. I think they're going to win by at least 13 to 15 points. So I really like what you said there. What should we get to now, Andy? So a little Big East stuff.
Well, Greg, so you don't like our 8th-year senior Derek Walker, who is a forward, but we have him playing at center here.
Exactly. Everybody knows we're so short on the boards. It's just become the laughingstock of the Big Ten that I don't even like talking about anymore. Like, when are we going to get with this program and get some actual big men that can compete in the Big Ten with the Marylands, with the Illinois, with the Iowas, all those guys?
Hold on, Jabron. Now, Greg, you have some of your betting nuggets in the preview betting guide here.
Yeah.
And Nebraska last year went 9-1 against the spread on a neutral court the past 2 seasons. That's the best cover rate for any team with a sample size bigger than 8 games over that span. Do you think the Cornhuskers can give us that type of a neutral court performance again this year, or is that a little too fluky for you?
I don't necessarily think that it's too fluky just because they're typically catching a whole bunch of points when it comes to something like the Big Ten tournament. When it comes to a multi-team event, they're actually able to compete quite well because when you give Nebraska double figures, they're typically able to just weasel their way into the line because what I've noticed with a lot of the teams, and this goes all the way back to Iowa State with the mayor and Fred Hoiberg, the teams will typically get down double figures and then they'll make a run when it's a little bit too little too late. They're very good in garbage time. I know that used to be the Kirk Cousins moniker, to use an NFL term, which Kirk Cousins got to give him a little bit of credit for what he's saying.
For sure.
But, I mean, they're sort of like the old Kirk Cousins of college basketball. They're just really good at garbage time. And, hey, when you're catching double figures, you're able to appreciate that.
I like that. And you got us at plus 100 to win the conference. So you're saying there's a chance.